And here we go, ladies and gentlemen of hashtag Nation. How you guys doing tonight? While I get a few things set up, I'm gonna try to stream this bad boy solo because I have, my co-pilot Paul. It's actually his anniversary today, so he's going to be doing the husbandly thing and taking care of the missus. So you guys got me tonight. Although I am very hoarse, I do apologize. So we're going to try something a little bit different tonight. Zelensky, Apex, and Eisler, awesome. Right out of the gate. Good to see you guys tonight. Um, yeah, so we're going to try to preview the Denver Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills this Sunday at New Era Field. It should be a great matchup. Um, you guys are the best, I swear to God. That's awesome. And hopefully, if I can get this little treat that I have for you guys to work tonight, it's going to be, hey, the Mutant Moose, what's up? Evan, Bill's fan, Kevin, good to see you guys. No roasting of Paul. We could always roast Paul. I mean, that's always a good time. But yeah, Elliot says, coming right out of the gate, coming in hot. Great matchup of two solid defenses. Daniel, what happened to No Shave November? Well, I kind of have a little daughter, and every time I would try to hold her at night to put her to sleep, her face would kind of hit my beard, and she'd start crying crazily. So I just decided to shave it. I'm in the mood for some horse meat. Yeah, that's amazing right there. So, um, like I said, I'm a little hoarse tonight, so I'm gonna try to keep this stream a little bit, you know, um, down a little bit. Kids are greater than the beard. Yes, they are. So, for those of you that saw the video that I posted yesterday about the Punt Foundation and working in conjunction with 26 Shirts and David Adams, yeah, we're trying to sell like things that are kind of like football squares. So you're going to see those things, and we're going to assign them randomly to everybody, and then we're going to give away some Bills merch for you guys. So we came out of the gate strong. A lot of people have donated. We have the links to our Venmo and our Cash App. I'm currently in the process of setting up a PayPal for you guys, so you'll be able to get that. Benny George, hello Mario, R.I.P. Ranch. Where's Paul? Paul is he's got it's his anniversary today, so he's like I said, he's doing the husbandly thing. Elliot, yeah, man, get in on it. It's pretty awesome. We got some people donating already. It's going to be pretty sweet. The giveaways are going to be over the last 4 games of the regular season for the Buffalo Bills, and all the proceeds are going to the Punt Foundation. So we're going to try to raise about $2,000 for the Punt Foundation. I'm really excited to be doing that and actually have this platform to do that. So. Um, Think that the travel, Jeff Farner, think that the travel time for Denver will have an effect. Nah, they've been traveling over to the East Coast quite a bit, so I don't think that's a big deal. He sounds like I ate Paul. Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, guys, thanks. So, but you know what? It's a very interesting matchup for the Buffalo Bills because here you have a 3-7 team in the Denver Broncos. Right out of the game, let me get to the injury report though for you guys. So, did not practice today for the Denver Broncos. Dalton Risner, Connor McGovern, Ron Leary, Joe Jones, Justin Hollins, and Tim Patrick. And limited was Juwan James and Jeff Hewerman, the tight end. Um, how's the Broncos starter? Allen's not bad. I mean, he's completely under 50%. I know I shouldn't have started out with not bad, but he's got three to one touchdown interception ratio right now, and it's actually the Broncos are probably wishing that they didn't spend high on Joe Flacco at this point. It's gonna be tough. Kevin Barbato be driving up to Western New York this weekend. Nice. Hen dog. Yes, it's the Allen Bowl. Um, but it's an interesting part when I was looking through the statistics for the Denver Broncos. Vic Fangio, the coach over there, you guys remember him? He used to be he was in San Francisco during their run when they were really good and they went to the Super Bowl, and then he went to Chicago. Now he's here. Um, the Denver Broncos are 27th in the league in points scored and 7th in the league in points allowed. So kind of sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Because the Buffalo Bills have found themselves in that position quite a bit. Um, yeah, Benny George says their O line is banged up. Absolutely, and with a team that is still trying to find their way offensively, they do have some nice young weapons in Philip Lindsay and Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. But as far as a matchup standpoint, I think the Buffalo Bills showed people on Sunday. A lot of things that they did versus the Miami Dolphins, they weren't doing the whole year. So it's very interesting to see that. Scott Blakely still can't figure out how to donate. Obviously, me if others figured it out. No, it's not you. It's connecting to Venmo and connecting to Cash App is kind of goofy if you, but if you need some help, you can always send us an email at htagsports at gmail.com and we could walk you right through it. It's not a big deal. Daniel Lambert Carson, he says he's worried about Lindsey. I'd be worried about Lindsey too. The run game has always been a staple for the Denver Broncos, and Vic Fangio, defensive head coach, we know what that's like. He's going to want to run the ball against the Buffalo Bills, and if the Bills can come in with the same intensity and the same mindset that they did against the Miami Dolphins, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. Kevin Barbero, same concern this week with Cleveland run game. Yeah, I know it's a little tough, but um, you got Lindsey there who does really well, but you don't have the horses on the outside to take guys out of the box for Philip Lindsay. When you talk about going up against Beckham and Landry, well, it's you gotta devote some attention to those guys, either safeties over the top or try to get a guy to bracket one of those guys. So your focus on the run game kind of gets a little limited. Well, if you have Cortland Sutton and they traded away Emmanuel Sanders, so they're a team that's in a rebuild right now. So it's gonna be tough sledding for them to try to move the ball, especially against this Bills defense who seem to find their way against Miami. Apex, send that pressure, shut down the run game. Love it. I'll get to your guys' comments now. I'm gonna try to get to all of them. So, um, just score 70 to 20 points this week, please. Yeah, the Denver Broncos have only scored over 20 points twice this year. One of those was against Cleveland, and they beat Cleveland. They beat Cleveland 20-19. Figures, they hold Cleveland to 19 points, they win. We hold Cleveland to 19 points and we lose. Figure that one out. Anthony Weber, Corey Lugitt held us down, confident in his play. Yeah, former first rounders aren't former first rounders for no reason. I mean, he is a solid run stopper, and he got in there at Fitzpatrick a few times, and it's amazing. You wonder why some of these guys fall through the cracks, and they're just solid players. I think it was an injury issue with him. He had a little injury history that he had to take care of. Um, Kevin Morant, I hope they play the same as Dolphins. Love it. Do you think our offense can continue what we did versus Miami? Listen, I think we all agree that Mr. Dable belongs up in the box because for all the things that a lot of people don't like about Brian Dable, this guy is a pretty good offensive coordinator when he's up in the booth because you could see the whole field, and he could be in Allen's helmet up until 15 seconds, as we mentioned before, with the time cut off. So he could do a lot of those different things. He could see where they're lining up, where they're shifting, who they're substituting in, a lot easier than he can from the sideline. So maybe that was hampering him. So Elliot Eisler, at least it's a home game, makes me feel better. I agree. Um, Freeman and Lindsey will be tough, but I think with the you don't have the same kind of threat on the outside like you did versus Cleveland that you do against Denver. So you're able to load the box up a little bit more. I expect Poyer and Hyde to be down in the box a little bit more this week. And the elephant in the room, we got to talk about it. Hen Dog talked about it. Elliott talked about it. Von Miller versus Cody Ford. All right. Lugitt is legit. So if we're talking about Cody Ford, obviously Ty Nsekhe is on a week-to-week basis, and it didn't look good from the game what happened with him. So, Dallas Holland, I'll get to your comment very, very soon, sir. Dawkins versus Von Miller, because they're going to move Von around. They really are. You talk about Von Miller, they're 3-7. They played 10 games. He only has 5 sacks. In the past 4 seasons, he's had double-digit sacks every year. So it's definitely a rebuild in his career because he has a new defensive. He's got a new head coach, but he's got a new defensive philosophy coming in. So while he is still a very, very dangerous player, there's been 10 games of tape to pretty much neutralize him. If he only has 5 sacks in 10 games, although he is a very viable threat on the outside, you could do a lot of different things. And a lot of people are talking about, in the chat, chip him with a running back, put a tight end over there. You could do a lot of different things. You know what? The Bills have been using a lot of motion, especially with McKenzie, and which is why, Holland, he said Duke in for Isaiah, would like to see him back if his shoulder's good. Yeah, but I don't know if Isaiah is going to be the guy that goes on the chopping block for Duke Williams, because you end up using a lot of the play action, a lot of the motions and stuff with Isaiah McKenzie that happened to be very, very successful. And the Bills happen to get into a little bit of a comfort zone now because of McKenzie running a lot of those motions and diagnosing what the defense is for Allen and a lot of those things. So I think he really does. I think he really does a lot of good things for you. Um, why is no one asked the question that Mario is wearing a headset and no one is talking to him? Well, Paul, thank you for giving me the platform to talk about what I was going to do a little bit later, because I do have nobody to talk to. And Paul and I decided to open up the floodgates, good or bad. Benny George, Mario's listening to Fat Beats and waxing Bill's lyrical at the top. That's why you guys are the best. Um, so yeah, what we're gonna try to do? I'm gonna try to take some phone calls tonight. I'm gonna put the number in the chat, and then you guys can call in, and hopefully it won't be too insane. But I like to take your questions via a telephone. And if you guys want to call in, you say your name and whoever you are, and then you give me a question. So we're gonna try. We're gonna call it the 2 minute warning. So we're gonna try to limit these bad boys down a little bit. So that's why I'm wearing the headset, Paul. That's why. Stop being a jerk and get in here. Um, You did, Scott Blakely. Dable's calling in place. Yeah, I got my headset on. Hopefully we don't get down to the 15-second mark. But let me scroll up. I know I missed some comments. Benny George, Derek Wolfe is very underrated. He is. And the great part about Derek Wolfe is the fact that Mitch Morse was playing for Kansas City, so they have a lot of familiarity with each other playing in that division. So hopefully that will benefit. Um, that will end up benefiting Morse in the long run about how to block him, what his weaknesses are, what are some things to look for the offensive line. Um, Paul's on his anniversary chatting in hashtag live stream. Yep, definitely is. All right. YouTube Midnight's Hood channel. A lot of screens and quick outs to neutralize Denver's pass rush. Yeah, that'd be a great thing to do. I mean, you could run some screens, you could run some quick outs. A lot of the zone reads that Allen was running against Miami could work as well, because you have to have Von make a decision, and those ends have to make a decision. So I like the philosophy that they went into Miami with, but you gotta admit that if you're comparing defenses of Miami and Denver, it's almost night and day. So maybe that was a test run against Miami to run some of these plays and see if they were successful. And then if they are, maybe they'll work against Denver, and then it'll maybe be something that the rest of the league has to pay attention to. Um, Stick our swing tackle in the TE spot to help Ford. I don't think we really have one right now. I think everyone's kind of hurt. Um, what did Madden say? Oh, that's great that Duke is the one who will go up and grab those contested catches in the end zone. Yeah, we already saw John Brown can't do it. Yeah, it's really tough. Brown's only 5'10", and you still got Foster, who's 6'2", who could probably do those back shoulder throws near the end zone. But another thing that you have too is you have Dawson Knox, who is a very viable red zone threat now. I think a lot of people need to start paying attention to Dawson Knox down there, which will take guys away from those little smaller, shiftier guys. Plus, you still got Cole Beasley in the bag to run those routes. How many of those short routes have we seen Julian Edelman catch across over the years near the goal line and just kind of sneak his way into the end zone? So that's just another option that the Buffalo Bills haven't been exploring either. Do you think we use the Wildcat effectively? The Wildcat is great if it's used sparingly, but I don't think the Buffalo Bills necessarily need to use a Wildcat, because their run game is very effective, and the Wildcat's just to throw defenses off a little bit. It's not a very sustainable model, as we've seen over the years. It's just another gadget play. It's just like a jet sweep. It's just like anything else that you'd want to run that's a type of a gadget play. I think the only reason you would run it would be to throw teams off and have other teams in the league something to the game plan for. And if you put that on tape, then they're like, okay, we got to devote some time to this, which means they're not devoting as much time to the bread and butter plays that you run every week. Kevin Barbera, yeah, if they double Brown, Beasley's due for a breakout game. I do believe that. Um, yeah, Paul, he's banning me again. Evening, gentlemen. Mikey Mike, good to see you, buddy. Barkley in the Wildcat. Stop it. Stop it, Daniel. That's no. Agreed. Ellie Eisler. Yeah, agreed. I'll take 7 sacks any week. Keep up the aggressive game plan. Yeah, it's interesting because you do leave yourself a little exposed, and I think the back and forth that we need to discuss here is the fact that we talked about Levi struggling a little bit. Now, I believe that Levi Wallace is a formidable zone corner. If you want to play zone behind, if you're not blitzing, if you're not doing that, I think Levi Wallace has proven that he's pretty good. But if you're gonna be in a very aggressive attacking defense and you're gonna be starting to send more guys, five, six guys, you got to play man behind that. And one of the things that Kevin Johnson excels a little bit more than Levi Wallace right now is man. So, we're talking about another first-round pick that the Bills just snatched up. I mean, Kevin Johnson was a first-round pick. Corey Lugia is a first-round pick. These guys that they just bring in were former first-round picks from other teams, and it just seems to work for what they want to do. All right, who's the odd man out at DT Hendog? With Harrison out, are you talking about for next year? Or are you talking about for right now? I don't know. They should use Knox and Croft. He's 6'6" in a matchup problem. Derek Robinson comes in. Yeah, I totally believe that. They have a lot of weapons at their disposal, and they've been able to remain healthy this whole year, which is amazing. The fact that you're 7-3 and you have all these healthy players. Hendog next year. Odd man out at DT. It's going to be interesting to see who it would be because I'm assuming that they're going to re-sign Jordan Phillips. They're going to have Harrison Phillips. You're going to have Corey Lugia. You're going to have Star Lutule. You're going to have a lot of these guys. You got Taylor in the wings as well. I think it all depends on how they handle the Shaq Lawson situation. If they decide to re-sign Shaq Lawson, then the one guy I didn't mention is Ed Oliver. He'll beef up and he'll play defensive tackle. However, if Shaq decides to go to greener pastures, at least from my vantage point, what I would love to see is the fact that let Star stay at the weight that he's at or even cut down a little bit more and play defensive end. Could you imagine having Harrison, Jordan, and Oliver, and then you got Jerry Hughes on the other side of that, or any X player you want to put in there? You know what I mean? So that would be a very formidable front. And but the thing is too, you'd be asking Ed Oliver to play a different position. So maybe there may be some growing pains next year if they moved him out to DE. I just think that would be something. You drafted a guy at 9 at defensive tackle. In the second year, you're going to move him. While I would like that, I mean, it's just a fan's perspective that I'm giving you guys here. So it could be something that they could do. Apex says they could cut Star. They could. Next year, let me get you guys the numbers because I did this before. And I wanted to get the numbers specifically right for you. I know you guys keep talking about all that. So we go to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go to overthecap.com. It's a great resource. If you guys don't use it or you don't check it out, a lot of people use Spot Track, but Over the Cap is just amazing. I just love it. So if we look at Star Latulile's contract, next year would be the year. We just need a number 1 wide receiver and maybe a lineman. So if we talk about Star's contract, if he's designated as a post-June 1st cut next season, okay, the Buffalo Bills will take a 2.6 dead cap hit and save $7.5 million on his contract. So you start to look at some of these things because everyone lost their mind when he signed a $50 million deal. But it was very cleverly worded in the fact that the third year of his deal, you can cut him without a huge penalty. And I thought Brandon Beane and his staff did an excellent job with that. I think Star was brought in to kind of show how McDermott wants this thing. How McDermott wants this thing blocked up and everything. So I was just getting a phone call, guys. How crazy is that? So, we're gonna get those. Don't worry. Don't worry. So, Star was just basically there to show the blueprint of how McDermott wants his defense run with the tilt 4-3, and then after that, I mean, you could pretty much plug in any other guy there, but he still is a formidable player. He still does pretty well. So, um, I'd like to see Star on this roster. If he's not on the roster, I can understand it. So, wasn't Hendog said, wasn't Oliver losing weight to show teams he could play DE? Yeah, the thing that's crazy about the draft, and Paul and I have mentioned this almost ad nauseum now, these guys don't get an off season. So by the time this season finishes, these rookies can finally like exhale. They're on a team. They have the system that they're in. They can rework the system. They can rework their bodies. They can actually get some rest. But when you're a rookie, you're going through your whole season. You're preparing for the draft. You're going to the combine. You're doing all this other stuff, and then you go right into OTAs and you go into minicamp. You really don't have a time to rest. And I think what Oliver was trying to do, because he wasn't really sure where he was going, was that he was cutting weight to show that he could play defensive end for any of the other of these 3-4 teams that were going to probably draft him. Um, so that could have been a case where he was doing whereas if he would have stayed at a little bit higher weight or even put on a few more pounds, he probably would have been a solid defensive tackle coming out of the gate a little bit. If you cut Star, you start looking at what depth of first round defensive tackles are. Yeah, Evan Anderson comes in. Yeah, if the pattern continues of all of these defensive tackles that are coming into the league now that are monsters, it's something that you can easily replace. And putting these guys on rookie deals is the cheapest way to do it. Um, a lot of teams start to do that. That's why draft picks are so coveted. But we have to remember now, at the end of the 2020 season, the new collective bargaining agreement comes out. So we'll have to see what that looks like for a lot of these contracts that are coming out. It's going to be interesting. Uh, Everyone was looking at their own phones. I'm like, that's pretty funny. If Trent is only playing DE to set the edge, why can't Oliver do it? Mikey Mike. I think he can. I really think he can. But Trent, I gotta tell you guys, I don't have the film, and you guys told me during the post game, there are some things that Trent Murphy does that do not show up on the stat sheet that are just amazing that he does at the edge, to let other people shine. And I mentioned the one play against New England. I'm going to try to bring that up with Mike on the Friday film room. Hopefully my voice will be a little bit better by then. But he does so many things out there to let other guys shine, other guys make plays that they just don't show up in the stat sheet. And it's just amazing. Someone changed my ringtone. Big JH99. I don't think you've commented before. I think that may be your first comment. If I'm wrong, tell me. But he says the Bills got a great group of defensive tackles, though. Yeah, that's something that you can't. Sorry, it's so underrated. If you have a great group of defensive tackles that can control that front, especially the three guys in the front, the two guards in the center, you're going to win a lot of games and you're going to win a lot of battles up front. That's amazing. Did Jerry Chief Rock? Did Jerry Hughes really retire 2 games ago? He was on the sheet for he was on the injury sheet for a groin, so I don't know what's going on with him. Um, he's a guy that obviously the Buffalo Bills wanted to keep around. I think he had a before signing his 2-year extension. I think his contract was up at the end of this year, and with the question marks about Shaq Lawson, what was going on, I think they wanted to lock up one of them, and they locked up Jerry, and he's one of the guys that was a holdover. So Elijah Wall comes in. He said, "Do you think Dable up in the booth makes a difference?" I talked about it a little bit at the onset. I think he does. I think you could see more things up there, and you're not in the chaos and mayhem that is the sidelines. I don't know if any of you've ever coached before, but being up in the booth and being on the sidelines, it's almost night and day. There's so much unbelievable chaos. Not to say that there's no chaos up in the booth. However, you have a bird's eye view of what's going on. Um, for those of you that play Madden, I know I can't believe I'm about to just compare this to Madden, but the view that you have when you play Madden versus when you play in the single player mode versus in Madden. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but it's funny. You can't see everything. But up top, you could see guys that come in, guys that leave. You could see their sideline even better. You could see a bunch of things that go on with the personnel on your sideline. It's great. Um, there was a comment that was so great. Great group it is. Someone. Where was this comment? I have to see this. James Sanders. How important is Jordan Phillips, Mario? I think he's extremely important. Now, the thing about Jordan Phillips is this. You have two guys that are in the room, and we talked about this, Dennis Hickey and Dennis Locke. These guys are the statisticians. They basically, Paul and I call them the Moneyball guys all the time. So these are guys that have very heavy influence on who are value pickups for the Buffalo Bills at certain positions, and they provide Bean and McDermott these guys, and Bean and McDermott will make the final say on this. You have Sonoris Perry here. You have Jordan Phillips here. You have Frank Gore here. You have all these guys that were from Miami when these two guys worked down in Miami. Now they're up here. Jordan Phillips was one of those guys, and the fact is they found amazing value in him, and he's just paid dividends for this team. He's huge. He can stop the run. He can push the pocket. He does a bunch of different things. He will garner a lot of money next year. And then if you're thinking that he's going to probably be in the $8 million range, then that's when you probably are going to say goodbye to Star Lotulelei, because not that his ceiling is a little bit higher, but he's a younger player. You could do a lot more things with him, I believe, at this point right now. If you asked me that at the beginning of the season, I would have told you no. But as of right now, if you were going to cut Star Lotulelei, designate him a post-June 1st cut next year, take that $7.5 million, put it on Jordan Phillips's tab, then you would have a very affordable team, and you're not really breaking the bank too much. But the Bills have a ton of cap room anyway to work with. Bills are in the Bills are in the Super Bowl this season in my Madden franchise. I think they all are. Always awesome. Plus, Dable can eat Thanksgiving dinner during the game. Hen dog. Thanks, buddy. Caracas says motioning and sliding the linebackers last second before the snap looked really good last week to stop the run. Hope they do the same thing moving forward. It's amazing because the Buffalo Bills have seen that done to them so much that it's finally good to see them do it to other teams, because other teams were doing that to try to confuse Allen all the time, and they were able to do it against Fitzpatrick, who is not an easy guy to confuse. The guy's been around for a while, and the fact that he's still around means that he's a pretty intelligent quarterback. So the Bills were able to confuse the offensive linemen, the communication, everything broke down, and they were able to have some very positive plays. Scott, I didn't forget you. Scott, thank you very much. I appreciate it. To me, the biggest question was last week for real. Have we finally gelled? If so, perfect timing. Thoughts? At some point, this team is going to gain comfort with each other. We've seen the defense do it for almost 2 years now. I mean, they have a comfort level. They know where guys are going to be. Sometimes they have breakdowns, but that's going to happen in games all the time. The other team gets coached up too. But as far as the offense is concerned, you could see the progression of Allen. This is almost like the start of his 4th season. And what I mean by that is we had Allen last year, pre-injury and post-injury. I know a lot of people, naysayers, may say, hey, well, his completion percentage was lower post-injury than it was pre-injury. True, but if you could see the difference in how he played the game in the first 6 games before his injury and the last 6 games, you'll see a different player. Now, I hate to use the comparison of like a slingshot, but if you think about it this year, Allen, people were always on him because of the high expectations of him after the last 6 games last year. All right, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Every single statistical category, this kid has improved. So as he goes, is as the offense is going to go. So the system that Dable's running is very heavily predicated on the quarterback knowing where everyone is at all times. I think he's little by little starting to get it, and maybe it all came to fruition against Miami. But we do have to remember that it was Miami. We have to be very conscious of that, and I understand that. That's fine. I missed a bunch of Madden quotes. Let's scroll down here. Elliot Eisler, they've been playing conservative for sure. Finally took the leash off the team, and the team responded well. This week against Denver will be a good test to see what we really are at on offense. Yeah, if they come out of the gate, here's the craziest part about it. For my own sanity, when the Bills were winning those games against teams they should have beat earlier in the year, they weren't crushing them. What does that say to me? They're building their team for December and January football, because if you come out of the gates and you just blow teams out by 30 points every week, you don't really get to be tested in situational football. Now, These are grown men. These are professional athletes. No matter how good or bad the teams may be, these are still professional athletes. They still got to do it. You have an offense that is learning, a lot of new parts put together. Dable's still trying to find his footing. Let's not say, let's call it what it is. So all the things that go on ended up coming up to this point with everything that was kind of thrown together for the Buffalo Bills. So, um, in that respect, sorry, in that respect, they were playing games that were very, very tight, very, very close. So they have situations where they're down 7, they're down 10, they're up 10, they're up 6, they're up 3, they're down 3. All of those situations lead into a point where when teams start to play really, really tough, then they can draw on those experience to go forward. Sorry, hold on, guys. Um, so that's my take on it, at least. So, to be honest, I'm looking forward to Dallas. Anytime we can beat them, vindicates all the memorabilia I lost in bets losing to them in Super Bowls. Yeah. G Rock says, Mario, what makes the Patriots D so much better than the Bills D? Players, personnel, coaching, or scheme? G Rock comes in. Listen, as much as I hate to say it, I think Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind that ever coached in the NFL, bar none. He gets guys into his system, and then when they leave his system, some of those guys fall apart. But he gets those guys in there. You also have a guy on the other side of the ball who's been playing in the same system, quote unquote system, for 19 years almost. So he knows how to control the clock, how to control the ball, and all that. And plus, the mystique of the Patriots kind of comes in. No one's afraid of the Buffalo Bills yet. However, everyone has the aura of the Patriots. We have to remember they're the defending Super Bowl champions for a reason. So that being said, Belichick is one of the greatest one game planners that you could have. I mean, he's amazing. So in that respect, I think because guys come in already buying into the system that Belichick is doing. So if you have a guy on the defensive side of the ball that comes in, they're already buying into it. We've seen what happens when players buy into the system little by little of what McDermott and Frazier are doing. So they're starting to get it, starting to get it. And then more guys that come in, they come into the fold and they start to buy into it. So I don't think it's a question of personnel or anything like that. I think the model that Belichick has been running, he's been running it for so long that guys come in immediately buying into the system. And the guys that, for the Buffalo Bills, there hasn't been like a long-standing road of success there, but it's starting to build now. So I think that's it. Okay. We got an argument going on in the chat. I'm just curious. 89 Bills versus 90 Bills. Huge difference once they gelled. Yeah, the start of the 90 Bills and that run actually started when they played Cleveland, and they lost to Cleveland when they were running their 2-minute offense. So they came out the next year. They said, why don't we start the game with this? Because it's our most viable package. Plus, guys can't substitute when we're running hurry up. All right. If they come out in a base formation, we come out in 4 wide. They're going to have trouble covering it, and they're not going to be able to get their personnel into the game. Even when teams started to plan against that, it was very tough. It was very tough for people to get in on that stuff. So, did you see? Caracas says, "Did you see McDermott in the second half with the play sheet over his lips? He was calling plays, and I loved it. It seems that when McDermott gets the reins, he almost like can't help himself. He wants to send pressure all the time, and where I don't know if you see that and you believe that's true. Like Frazier's playing a little bit more back. McDermott is pinning his ears back and going. I don't know. I think it would be. I don't want to presume anything of that nature, but it seems that he just can't help himself. I just don't think he can help himself sometimes. Um, BB out schemed the Bills' cake on offense. Joshua Chase comes in. Yeah, his defensive game plan in Super Bowl 25 is actually in the Hall of Fame right now. So just goes to tell you all the stuff he says. Guy plays 2 defensive tackles and 9 cover guys. And he says to his team the night before, Thurman Thomas has to have 100 yards rushing for us to win this game. Because if we hold the ball as long as they do, we're going to get killed. Who comes up with that? I mean, You guys talking about golfing? What's going on over here? All right. Um, could Murphy be cut to play Lawson? I think what you do is you shortchange yourself. If you're a believer in Daryl Johnson, that could be a thing. That could be a thing. You could do that. He needs an off season to kind of beef up a little bit too. But I don't know if that's Benny George. I don't know if that's a thing that they would want to do. I think they would want to keep one or the other at this point. But if you cut if you cut Murphy to pay Lawson, and then Lawson happens to regress because he's in a contract year, you got to remember that Murphy's not in a contract year this year. Lawson is, so you don't know really why he's playing as well as he is. Is he trying to get that next contract, and then when he gets it, what happens? Because we've seen the first couple of years wasn't too good for Lawson. So Eric Javante, how much more successful can Allen become if he stops locking his eyes onto his first read? It's rookie and second year guys, man. That's rookie and second year guys. I had been critical. Um, James Sanders, John Brown is the new Andre Reed. Don't at me. I always laugh when guys say "don't at me." I think it's hysterical. Uh, so with Allen and a lot of young guys that come in, when they come in out of college, in college guys are always wide open. You'll see guys. Watch games on Saturday, like these throwing these guys that are absolutely wide open, and the quarterbacks get used to that type of thing. In the NFL, it's completely different, where guys won't always be wide open. I mean, you'll have some, but it's a breakdown in coverage, or it's this and that and the other thing. So what you have to do is you have to immediately trust that when you throw it, if this guy's covered, I'm throwing it to a spot where he can only get it. We see it every week. You guys watch games on Sunday every week. They throw a pass. The guy looks like he's covered. He comes down with the ball. Now, I'm not talking about an amazing contested catch that ends up going on a highlight reel. I'm talking about basic plays that happen with a lot of these guys. So what happens is he starts to stare guys down, waiting for them to get open. And all of a sudden, he can't get over to his second read fast enough. And here's what happens. He ends up getting sacked or has to run out of there or rushes a throw. I think once he becomes more comfortable within this system and he starts to trust some of the things that are going, we saw it a little bit of on Monday against Miami. I'm sorry. We saw a little bit of it against Miami was the fact that he was throwing to guys that appeared to be covered because he was taking shots. And aside for John Brown catching that touchdown on the right-hand side, where he threw it in the pocket of the cover two, he was throwing to guys that seemed to be covered, and they were making some plays. So, I mean, that's the first step that he needs to do to mature for a quarterback. So I was really happy to see some of those things. Hey, Donnie Brook, what's going on, man? Yeah. Piebald said, he says, ask Howie Long how tough it was playing against the King on offense. He was mad. Come on, slow down. Uh, those are different linebackers back then, Elliott. All right. All 22 was showing Murphy overpowering Miami's guard and tackle and opening up the middle for the four. It's all got to work as a system. If you have a team defense that the Buffalo Bills play, if one part goes down, almost like the whole system goes down. They're not built on a team of superstars. They rely heavily on everyone playing their position at a specific time, specific juncture. If anything goes out of whack on that, it throws the whole thing off. You bring that over to the offense. Now, the offense that, because Joshua Chase, that's why I want a big body receiver this year, but Allen's not ready for that yet. The thing about the offense that Brian Daboll is trying to run isn't predicated on having a bona fide number one wideout. I know it sounds silly. However, the system is made to have a bunch of different receivers that can get open at certain different times, and it's concept based. So what that means is you're going to scheme these guys open regardless of talent level. Now, a couple of them do have amazing talents within the system. They can do certain things, but if you want to go back, it's a knockoff of the Patriot system. So if you want to talk about, well, what kind of receivers did Brady have? Every Patriots fan that I talk to that makes the argument about him being the GOAT, they always say, well, what receivers did he had? It's a system based heavily on the quarterback knowing where everyone's supposed to be in the concept of the route all the time. So that being said, how do you think it was so easily for Julian Edelman to come in and take Wes Welker's position? Because it's within the framework of the system. It's an 8-yard passing tree. So I don't. That's why I think because you don't need a number one bona fide wideout. Certain offenses, West Coast, Eric Coryell, you need a number one stud. You need a Julio Jones. You need a. The West Coast um, that the Kansas City Chiefs run with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, I believe, is one of the greatest offensive play callers of all time. He has so many weapons at his disposal. It's almost like he can't help himself either. He has so many guys to work with in that system. It's ridiculous. Anthony John, 37 points and 7 sacks. I love it. Should have rocked the mustache. Yeah, I can't do that. No, I can't. I shaved one day ago. I already got stubble. It's crazy. I was bummed Buffalo was one of the few teams to follow Kaepernick to a high school tryout. You know what? You're going to test the waters. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Um, okay, check out That Good Sports or funny/great additional coverage of the Bills Broncos. The guy covered NFL focuses on the Broncos. Should be fun to watch this week. I Somebody suggested that to me. I believe it was Ryan over at Jets Talk 24/7. He actually suggested for me to check that guy out. I think I checked him out about a month ago. An interesting guy. I think it's funny. I love his shtick. It's pretty cool. It's pretty funny. Um, so I mean, as far as that goes, guys. So we're previewing the Buffalo Bills versus the Denver Broncos. I think the Buffalo Bills have a great chance here because they always want to say that the first test was New England. They lost 16-10. The second test was going to be Philly if they were for real, and they lost 31. Was it 31-13? And then all right, I think Cleveland will be a tough matchup for them, and it was. You see some of the weaknesses of the defense is if you have two number one wideouts on the offense and a running back that's a stud. Well, not every team has that. Trek Reviewer says #sports. I've seen one mock draft the Buffaloes taking a running back from Wisconsin in the first round, but I think Notre Dame wide receiver Chase Claypool might be better. You know the craziest part about it is if you're looking for a big wide receiver, this draft probably doesn't have one. There's no DK Metcalf really in this draft as far as his height and size goes. That's all I'm talking about is purely his height and size. You're not going to have that in this draft. It's going to be really tough. If they're able to beat the Denver Broncos, another team where hey they're 3-7, but you talk about this defense they're going to be going up against, and the benefit is, and you guys mentioned it in the chat that they're at home. That's great. It's fantastic that they're going to be at home. So in that respect, it's going to be good. This is going to be a test for this offense, and whether or not they pass it, you can't go down and kick field goals all week or all game. If you go your first three possessions, you end up kicking field goals. Something happened. There's either a breakdown, a penalty, or something's not going right, and you have to fix it now. You have to fix it now. You're in the 11th game. You're going to try to go into a playoff run. You have to fix it now. Anthony John, Mario, do you believe we will have a good chance of winning it all? You know what? I can't remember the exact statistics because people like to talk about Allen's 300-yard game, and they fail to recognize that 300 yards, I look at it as, you want to talk about a 300-yard game for Allen, well, he had 50-some yards rushing, 250 yards passing, so he technically had a 300-yard game. Because you work into the offense, his legs as well as his arm, maybe another quarterback throws for those yards that Allen runs for, or maybe he doesn't. Who knows? But those are the tools that you're given with this kid in order to work with. And that's something that you have to do and you have to take advantage of. And Dable finally did a lot of that during the game. Do I think the Buffalo Bills can win it all? Well, like I said, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but there have been players, quarterbacks, that have not thrown for 300 yards in a season and have won the Super Bowl. There are if this defense can gel and stop the run and consistently stop the passes they have, I don't see why they can't. Because there is a reason that the cliche exists: defense wins championships. They can run the ball. Yes, you got Allen, who is a dual threat quarterback, who you don't know what he's going to do from play to play if he starts to get it. You got receivers that can get open and push the field vertically as well as horizontally. You have you got a system in place at One Bills Drive right now that has been the most solid system I think the Buffalo Bills have had in about 20 years, as far as from the top down. Everyone is on the same page moving forward and what's going on. Now, did the Bills think that it would happen this fast? I'm not sure. I think they always wanted to win. They always wanted to produce and all that stuff. But I think if you had to ask me before the season, they're a year or two. But the problem is that year or two, the guys on the defense, you're going to have them a year or two older. Contracts are going to start expiring, and you're going to have to bring new guys into the fold and make sure that they get it really quick. So I think the Buffalo Bills have a great mixture of offense and defense, or veterans and rookies, and that blend has just been working. And if they're able to beat the Broncos, whether or not it's a high scoring game or low scoring game, they're sitting at 8-3 after 11 weeks. What is there really to complain about with this team? I don't have anything to complain about. All right, don't Daniel, don't think the offense is really conducive for a lot of yards in the air. It can't be. I mean, could Allen throw for 300? Yeah, he can throw for 300. I believe he could, but that's not the type that this defensive-minded head coach wants to do. You know, I mean, if he wants to control the clock, guys, run the clock. Because what that does is it gives your defense time to rest, and it puts pressure when the other team has the ball for a amount of time. It puts pressure on your own offense. So when you put pressure on an offense and you have a defense that is able to communicate what's going on, mistakes happen. So that's what happens when mistakes will end up hurting your team. So I think the Bills really like that blueprint. They like keeping it close. Would they like a few blowouts? I'm sure they would. But like I said before, a little bit ago, when you play these close games as close as they do, you're gonna whatchamacallit, you're gonna find yourself in a lot of situational football, which helps you in the long run. Yeah, Allen was the AFC Player of the Week. Rivers had a 300-yard game versus Kansas City. I tweeted out earlier, Rivers has 300 as 6. Count him. He has 6 300-yard games this year. They're 2-4 in those games. He has 300 yards. Donnybrook, don't bring up Dilfer. God, he's everyone's guy to bring up when they say, oh, look at this quarterback that won it. I always like bringing up Brad Johnson. I thought he was worse than Dilfer. You want to talk about that Super Bowl that the Bucs won? I mean, could John Gruden not be given the best platform ever? I mean, he takes over Tony Dungy's team, leads him to the Super Bowl against the team he just coached the year before. How could you not have the best intel of a team? How? It's crazy. If Denver was smart, they'd stack the box. That's what I'm worried about. Just hope we start using our slants if they do. Joshua Chase. Well, it was funny because Mike and I were talking about it in the Friday film room, was that they wanted to spread guys out, because if you spread guys out, that defense has to show their hand. And by show their hand, what I mean is they have to show you what coverages they're doing. If you have a lot of those tight and bunch players near the line, they could bunch everybody in and try to come after you. So, which makes it harder to read what kind of coverage they're in, what kind of defense they're playing. So one of the things that they could do to get guys out of the box, they can just spread them out. You can go 4 wide, you can go 5 wide, you can not have anybody near the line. The only problem you run into, the obvious thing that you run into, is the fact that you're leaving Von Miller one-on-one with Cody Ford. So while that is a concern for me and a concern for a lot of Buffalo Bills fans, I think Ford will be one to want to rise up to the challenge and prove that he can be a guy that can be like, listen, I know this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding. I might get beat a couple times. But this guy, like I said, Von Miller only has 5 sacks in 10 games this year. So something that the opposing offenses are doing is working against him. Whether or not they're chipping him with the back, they're blocking down with the tight end, they're widening him out, who knows? Maybe it's the role that he's asked to play in a Vic Fangio defense is not the role that he's used to playing when he's getting double-digit sacks. I don't know. I'll have more on that after I watch the film tonight. So, like I don't know. He's still a player that you gotta be concerned about, but I think Cody Ford will be up to the challenge against him. Evan Anderson. So you're saying this will be a Lee Smith game? That's you guys are funny. I swear to God. You think the Bills consider trading our first round pick to the Bears for 2 second round picks and a first next year? I mean, it's so tough because Bean really covets those picks. He covets a lot of picks. So he likes finding guys in the third, fourth, and fifth round, getting multiple picks in those rounds, and guys that are, coming in on 4-year deals who are going to push guys that are in certain positions right now. He really loves doing that. To trade a first rounder, I think at this point, if you're in the top 15 and you trade a first rounder, you're going to get a first rounder the next year. That's just been like the going rate. But where the Bills are projected to be, they're going to be out of the top 15, hopefully. So if they're out of the top 15, they're not going to have a pick that they're going to gain a first next year. I don't think. I think it'd be tough. Let's take care. Caracas comes in once again. Let's take care of the Broncos and root for the Jets to beat the Raiders. Imagine a Bills Raiders playoff game to send Oakland out. That would be awesome. That would be fun. Hostetler, then what happened to him? Oh my God. The Bills Steelers game will be huge. Yeah, the Steelers, with the exception of that Cleveland game, the Steelers look good. The Steelers look. Fitzpatrick changed the whole complexion of that entire defense. It's crazy. It's crazy. Naveed says, I like trading down or even trading out of the first round and getting multiple second rounders. Here's the thing. Here's my thought process on that. In 4 years, you're going to have to sign both those guys. So you're going to have to make a decision either for a veteran or for one of those guys in those positions. That's why when everyone talks about, let's get 3 first-round picks this year and blah, 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 and all sorts of stuff. Well, they're going to be some of the highest contracts on your team. All of them are going to have the 5th-year option. I'm even concerned about the Bills signing both Allen and Edmonds because somebody's going to have to go because of both of those contracts that you're going to have. Somebody's going to get cut along the lines that is a fan favorite for the Buffalo Bills. That's why I don't like having so many, the Buffalo Bills have been hitting on a lot of their draft picks, which is why that when the free agency comes around in the offseason and all this other stuff, I'm not really gung-ho to go and sign a bunch of guys, even though we have a lot of cap room, or the Bills have a lot of cap room. They're going to need that cap, that rollover cap, to sign the guys that they've already brought into their system and into their program. So that's what's going to be tough. That's what's going to be tough for them to do. Joshua Chase, I'm not sure I'm ready to trust Cody Ford's confidence yet, though. You're not alone. I mean, that's why I said I have faith in him to do it, but it's going to be tough sledding. They may try to help him out a little bit. All right. The problem with Von Miller is he's normally rushing on our right side, which is Josh's strength scramble direction. Steve Hampton comes in. It could be. I mean, they could roll him out to his left. Allen has the arm strength to hit anything on the field. If he's rolling right or left, doesn't matter. Big Spence. Bills win 2-0 in OT. As long as it's a win, I don't care. Safety to end OT. That'd be nice. Let everyone walk other than Allen and get compensatory draft picks. The Patriot way. Yeah. If Belichick, I think we did an episode during the summer where it was this year was the first year in it only happened twice in the past 7 years. I can't remember the number. I don't want to be incorrect for you guys, but it was the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots both had first round picks, and over the past 5 years they barely did. 5-6 years they barely had any. Both of those teams having first round picks they didn't have them. Belichick would trade a first rounder for 3/3 if he could, or 3/4. Doesn't matter. He just wants to get bodies in camp and see what they do. All right. So listen, hey, we're coming to near the end of the stream. I have everything loaded up for the phone calls for you guys to call in. However, you guys can hear my voice. It hurts quite a bit. I'm gonna try to save it a little bit for Friday. I actually have you guys know Hashtag Nation, you guys have been with me for this long. You guys know I'm a teacher, so I'm gonna try to save this for tomorrow, and then Friday, and then for the film room for you guys. So it's killing me right now. I gotta take some medicine. I'm dying over here. But the next time that you guys are gonna see me will be Friday with my brother doing the Friday film room. Paul and I will be over on Sportscaster on Saturday, giving you our breakdown, our preview of the Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills together. And then Sunday, Paul and I will be calling the game on Sportscaster and YouTube. We're going to have a very special treat for you. You can actually watch the game when we call it. So you can turn down your television or just turn us on Sportscaster. You guys can see it. Yeah, Donnybrook, I'm going to take some NyQuil before bed. It'll knock me out. And other than that, and then we're going to do the post game after that. So we got a lot of things that are going on. You guys have, if I'm counting correctly, let me see, 1, 2. You guys got almost 2 weeks before the first boxes fill up for the first game. Um, so like I said, a lot of people have been buying the max amount of boxes for each game, which is $25. So we got quite a few $100 donations for the Punt Foundation, which is amazing. You guys are the best. We're going to be drawing at halftime of the Baltimore game and then after the game, and then we're going to announce them both on our post game. Paul and I will be calling the Pittsburgh game the following week, so we're going to announce during the game because Joe's calling Baltimore, so we'll announce it. Whoever won at halftime and at the end. You guys can get us on that video that I just posted yesterday through the Cash App and or Venmo. I'm going to set up a PayPal account before I take some NyQuil and go to bed tonight. So, yeah, other than that, Benny George, thanks for battling through injury. Yeah, mid-season toughness. Signed Jack Kemp helmet? No. Is Paul's head in a box and an anniversary is just a cover? Well, he was on the stream tonight, so he's obviously not in a box. What's in the box? I can't even do that. But I just wanted to say, guys, get the word out. We want to raise this $2,000 for the Punt Foundation in conjunction with 26 Shirts and David Adams. You guys are the best. Hashtag Nation. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me on this live stream, even though I sound like one of the characters from Chicago PD. I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm not even gonna look it up. But we will see. We'll see you. I'll see you guys on Friday for the Friday Film Room. Take care. Thank you for joining me. I'm out.